Abraham and Sarah. Before proceeding to the insights of the Pyramid Code, I would like to share one story that is very close to my heart from my first incarnation. In the year 3000, according to the Hebrew calendar, or 760 BC, according to the Gregorian calendar, Saria the high priest, from my first incarnation, was 600 years old. It was not common to celebrate a birthday in those times. Most people did not even know when they were born, and if they did, they would hardly receive any acknowledgement regarding it. There were not too many people who reached such an old age. In my opinion, Saria and Gama reached this age due to the Baraka process that they went through, along with their proficient knowledge of the secrets of creation. They used this knowledge in their personal lives and in their work as priests. They also lived a very clean vegan lifestyle, as did the rest of the pharaohs. If they would not have perished on the 9th of Av in the year 3339 according to the Hebrew calendar, or 421 BC according to the Gregorian calendar, in the destruction of the first holy temple, they would have most probably lived past 1,000 years old. The pharaohs and the high priests generally avoided sexual intercourse unless their intention was to reproduce. Physical love and mating occasionally occurred through normal intercourse as we know it today, but they mostly committed the act through meditation and telepathy with almost no physical contact except for holding hands and, in some cases, by touching legs. High priests would also mate by touching foreheads. Mating in this way preserved the essence of their bodies in a physical sense. It also preserved their internal energy, which was the secret of their vitality for their spiritual work. This is the reason why most of them would live such long lives compared to us today. Very few people truly knew how old Manu and Gama were, as they kept their age a secret. The people of the Jewish nation revered Gama and Saria, as they were elders and priests. The people of the nation loved them, and vice versa. One day in Jerusalem, on the holiday of Shavuot, a young couple approached Saria. Their names were Abraham and Sarah. This is not connected to Abraham and Sarah from the Bible. Abraham was roughly 30 years old, and Sarah was just under 25. They were privileged to meet with the high priest in private, which is not customary, because of the high priest's relationship with Sarah's father, who was a highly respected and well-connected man. The father requested help for his daughter. They came with the hope of receiving a blessing and help, since they had been married for 10 years and could not have children. Abraham asked for permission to marry a second wife, and together they requested help to get pregnant. Additional marriages for a man was something that was permitted in those days, so long as the wife does not show any resistance and the rabbi of the community approves. Sarah was very much resistant. She had power and influence because of her father's status in the community. Her husband, Abraham, insisted on a second wife, but did not oppose the blessing. Saria, the high priest, smiled to himself because he recognized the souls of Abraham and Sarah from their prior reincarnations. However, it was not proper or wise to mention that at the time. Abraham was Mer, my wife, in my current reincarnation, and Sarah was Roka, Tina, in my current reincarnation. The blessing that the couple received from the high priest helped tremendously, and in a short period of time, Sarah gave birth to twins, 2 daughters. One was named Verchia, or Farah from the previous reincarnation, and Tova in my current reincarnation, and the second daughter was named Shir, Yehoshua, the son of Nun, from the previous reincarnation, Shula in my current reincarnation. Besides the blessing that they received from the high priest, they also had to go through a general, physical and mental, cleanse which includes living a clean vegan lifestyle. By the age of approximately 35, Sarah was already a mother of 8. Ezekiel, Maharba from my previous reincarnation, and Abraham in my current reincarnation. Moses, Pharaoh from my previous reincarnation. Vicky in my current reincarnation. Hezekiah, Satis from my previous reincarnation. Orly in my current reincarnation. Chaya, Aaron, the high priest from the Fatasol dynasty in my previous reincarnation. Nadav, the head priest in my previous reincarnation. Rami Levi in my current reincarnation. Eliezer, the high priest from my previous reincarnation. Yoni Cohen in my current reincarnation. Sarah and Abraham lived a good life. If I am not mistaken, they lived until roughly the age of 38 years old. They have always been and still are a part of my soul family. The family friendship between Saria, Gama, and the young couple became even stronger over the years. This caused a little discomfort to Saria and Gama because of the fact that they knew the truth behind the priesthood, the fact that they took the place of the high priests and that they are not from the Levi tribe or part of the offspring from Aaron, the high priests, and his family. This was a small yet big lie in the eyes of Saria and Gama at the time. There are many distortions and conflicts between the true story and the official historical story, which is something that personally makes me uncomfortable today. But I will elaborate on this later. I have to emphasize the fact that this incarnation was extremely long, very interesting, and full of love, excitement, upheaval, and many bumps along the road. New rectifications, tikkun in Hebrew, that I went through in other reincarnations make no sense compared to this incarnation. However, I suppose that is the way of the world, especially the spirit world. With all the knowledge and experience, I always ask myself at the end of the day, why? How? When? What will happen in the near and distant future? The more I know, see and learn, the more I realize that I do not know or understand anything, and that we are just one drop in the entire ocean. The Pyramid. At the request of Rabbi A.A., I will try to explain and write the essence of the Pyramid Code without revealing the code itself. Everything that I am writing is only from my memory and knowledge that I have acquired in recent years, and some of what I remember from my first incarnation. I am not able to remember everything, and as time goes by, my memory becomes less reliable or fuzzier. My memory betrays me sometimes, and in my current reincarnation my body does as well, due to my missions. Or maybe it is more accurate to say that I betray my body in spite of my missions and knowledge. I am sure that the knowledge that I possess is not perfect and whole. My memory becomes more sharper and more pronounced as I write. As I went through the Baraka process, which is a long process that takes years, I first learned about current world history. Only after did I begin to learn about the spiritual power as opposed to the physical power, and how the two can be connected. This was a long, tedious, and difficult process to digest. I will begin with a little background on the pharaohs, or Phatassol, who were part of the evolution of the Earth's development in the distant past. Connecting the physical and the spiritual. Earth operates according to natural laws that are set by the Creator. Earth is always moving, evolving, and changing. Change and evolution in the spiritual world is propagated by different waves, frequencies, and vibrations that are consistent to each form in nature. This energy remains in these abstract forms until it permeates matter, which results in the changing of matter or the creation of new matter. This process can be achieved through spiritual words or spiritual powers, via waves, frequencies, and vibrations. In other words, flesh is created differently from an animal to a human being. A brain is created differently than a human heart. Everything has its own frequency, its own physicality, and its own spirit within it that affects its waves and vibrations. As spirit transforms itself into physical matter, the material that culminates, such as the death of a body, reverses its direction and returns back to spirit. It then further transforms to become source, or energy, or power again. This process continues for many years. It is a very slow process that spans millions of years. I am trying to preserve the language and style of Rabbi A.A. in this document, but it is not easy. The original document was written in Hebrew and translated into English. Hebrew is my native language, but my ability to speak and write was always weak. The original divine race. The initial race here on Earth was a very spiritual race. I would say that they were 90% spirit and 10% matter. The spiritual world and its laws ruled the world as opposed to the material world and its laws that we know today. The initial race was a conscious race with appreciation, love, and understanding for the divine plane and the laws of nature. I am talking about a very far away era, way before Atlantis or Adam and Eve. I am talking about a community that was naturally conscious and enlightened, without desires and impulses as we have in our current days. This was a race that was fully aware. This was a race that knew the secrets of nature and understood the secrets of creation. They had knowledge that had no boundaries, one that was characterized with a direct divine connection to the Creator. This was a race that knew how to control and guide nature. This was a race that did not have to work for their livelihood and did not have pain during childbirth. Nature worked for them, and they preserved nature according to the Creator's will. However, for some reason which I do not understand, there was another race that arrived, or was created, to Earth. They were a very different race. They looked like the original race, but they were spiritually void. They were 90% matter and 10% spirit. I suppose that they are the forefathers of Adam and Eve. This new race did not know peace or quiet. Due to interbreeding, the spiritual race was weakened and became physical matter, a process that took eons. The same divine race mated with the female of the other race, and they gave birth to mixed offspring of different sizes and colors. The new race had a very primitive brain with slow development. They were a race void of divine emotion. Along the way, there were a few who were spiritually grand, but no one reached the spiritual level of the initial divine race. The original divine race, the grand spirits, are trying to rebalance the earth up until the present day. On the 10th of Tishri, in the year 1010, according to the Hebrew calendar, or 2750 BC, according to the Gregorian calendar, aliens, Fatasol, came down to Earth from 4 different stars, or planets, that were destroyed for reasons that are unknown to me. The aliens that remained were sent here to assimilate with the native race and slowly rule the world in a positive way. Each group went to a different part of Earth, north, south, east, and west. The pharaohs reached what we know today as the African and Egyptian regions. They were all part of the original divine race. For the most part, all the aliens looked like ordinary human beings. The pharaohs had a long rectangular skull, unlike human beings of Earth, who had a rounded skull. The bodies of the pharaohs were thin, noble, and tall. They were dark-skinned, and their facial bones were protruding as they were blessed with noble beauty. The group that reached the west was dark, short, and possessed a large round skull with a large progressive brain. Their bones were thick. They seem to be the ancestors of the original divine race that has been diluted over time. These beings are the ancestors of the present-day South American Hispanics that reside in places such as Mexico and Peru. The goal was to try and transform the corrupt and materialistic race on Earth into a spiritual race that would bring peace and quiet without pressure, fights or wars. A race that would be preoccupied with the spiritual and not the physical. The pharaohs began to turn the earth from a materialistic place to a more spiritual place, and the initial success was overwhelming. However, as time went by, Fatasol and their new generation began to mate with human beings. The superior spiritual race planted itself into the materialistic race, which caused them to lose their spiritual powers and diluted their personal power as well as their future offspring. They tried to elevate the lower vibrational race out of the material and into the spiritual, but over time they failed. Slowly, Fatasol and their offspring became weak, animalistic beings that were full of lust and excess desire. Instead of being spiritual beings, suddenly they found themselves with tyrannical, cruel, spiritless, and fearless rulers that instilled fear within the entire nation. A very similar reality to what is happening on Earth today. As we understand it today, the mission failed. However, I know for sure that God does not give up and the work will continue to completion. It is an ongoing process, and we are on our way to the eternal light, which is the age of love. Within another 1 or 2 reincarnations at the most, we will reach this place. In fact, this eternal process is the work, destiny, and goal of entities such as Rabbi A.A. and Adam. It is the destiny of souls like the pharaohs who have come here to save themselves and planet Earth from physical and spiritual extinction. I believe that the day will come when the Son of God, Vater Sol, will manifest in a human body to show all mankind the way out of darkness and into the light, from stress to consciousness. That entity, in my eyes, will be the Messiah.